Welcome to the Joyful Mate podcast. Join your joyful journey mentor, Anthony Hartcher, as we explore the path to inner joy and fulfillment. Each episode we dive into the science of happiness, share personal insights, and invite you to be part of this interactive book writing adventure. You'll hear from experts in the field of joy, happiness, and fulfillment who will share their wisdom and experiences. Let's embark on this journey together. Let's make happiness part of your everyday. Welcome on the Joyful Mate podcast. How are you, Franziska?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Anthony. I love the name of your podcast, Joyful Mate. So good.
Yes.
So good to be here.
It's so great to have you on, and you're someone that when I follow you on social media and whatnot, that you have that aspiration for joy and living the fulfilled life. So I think today you're a fantastic guest for the listeners in terms of helping them better understand, well, certainly what joy and happiness is to you and how you foster it. So, but before we get into that, I'd love you to share your backstory, how you've arrived at what you're doing today.
Yeah, I'd love to share. I'll give you the short version, but I do feel like I need to always sort of myth-bust about this accent of mine. So I was born in Switzerland and moved to Australia about 20 years ago, actually. So I'm a Swiss Aussie. And growing up, it's a really cool blend because growing up in Switzerland, it's quite, especially when I was younger, it's quite a rules-driven society. It's, people don't step outside of their lanes too much, especially also I guess where I grew up in a small village where everyone knows what everyone is doing and everyone is commenting on everyone, and just that it's never sat well with me, that whole what are they doing and then I guess when I was 16 I did an exchange year in Costa Rica in a Latin culture. So coming from conventional Swiss, following the rules, being a good girl, good grades in school and studying and all that. And then I went to a Latin culture for a year at 16, and it just brought out the rebel in me. And I'm like, what is this? I love this. These people are my people. Just, more free, I guess, free spirited and a bit wild. And I met a lot of Australians while I was there at 16. My best friends, they were 2 years older. The Aussies, they did do exchange years a little later. So they were 2 years older, and my best friends were all Australians because they were crazy. And I'm like, these are also my people. So I went back home at 17. I'm like, one day I will become an Aussie because I feel like that's more my spirit. And so when I was 23, I got an opportunity to come to Australia during my studies. I was studying in Geneva. I was studying political science and marketing. Got a scholarship to go to Sydney University for a year when I was 23 in 2005, I think, and got stuck in Australia. I did go home to finish my degree because you don't have to pay for university in Switzerland, and finished my degree, and then moved back to Australia, started working in advertising and marketing. And then 2009, started my own company called Basic Bananas, which you know really well too, which is a marketing school for business owners. And then, all along, I guess, some really cool experiences and adventures. I love adventures, and I got 2 little girls too. And so still running Basic Bananas, which I'm incredibly passionate about. And also another company called Ocean Lovers, which is all about ocean conservation and celebrating our beautiful ocean. So that's sort of the shorter version of how I arrive here with you.
So fantastic. And yes, I certainly love what you do in terms of, I've been a member of the Clever Bunch and I got so much out of that course. Working with Basic Bananas was a lot of fun. So really got to know you well, and Christo. So It's so great to have you. You in LinkedIn, you have this, your first thing is adventurer. And you mentioned, that once you escaped Switzerland and got to a more free-spirited place, you really started to find yourself and thrive. So is the adventurer in you, is it like would you say you're a real curious person, or what's the adventurer? Where does it come from?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's actually something I thought about this podcast today, and, I wanted to make sure that I can provide a lot of value. And I thought about this, and it's something I wanted to share today too, is, thinking about joy, happiness, how does it, how do you feel joy and happiness? And I actually have a slightly different take on happiness, which you may not like, but I will share it after if you ask me a question around it.
Well, let's go there now. Let's go.
Let's finish this quickly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
adventure. So I think one of the ways to feel joyful, happy, if you want to use that word, is to know our values. So to know what makes me happy, to know what makes me fulfilled. So asking myself, when do I feel the happiest? When do I feel extremely, zen, calm, peaceful, joyful? And that's then becomes part of understanding what my value system is. And everyone has a different one. For me, ever since I was little, it's always been, yes, curiosity. I'm very curious about things. I question things. I question the norm also. And then feeling this sense of freedom. For me, freedom is one of my highest values. And then asking, okay, when do I feel free? It's usually when I go on adventures, when I travel, when I'm, on a motorbike somewhere, or surfing in a new country, or talking to strangers and hearing their story. That's when I feel free. And so that's when I feel the happiest, is when I'm feeling aligned with my personal belief system, with my value system. And I have 5 values that I'm very clear on, that have shaped who I am. And I do think that I'm born with that. I think that everyone is born with this almost blueprint that we need to almost uncover, with the machete through the bushes. Like, where is it? What is it? And once we have this clarity and we can live aligned with that, that's when joy comes and happiness, I think.
And those values to you, what are they?
So I even have them. I made up symbols for each of them, and then I have them tattooed on my hand too. I wouldn't recommend that, but if I look here, I can see. So freedom is one of the top ones. Then I have love. I feel like love is the underlying force of everything. Love. I've got trust, trusting in myself and trusting in the universe, even when things don't go what you think they should, how they should go, and it's really tough. Just trust. It's all good. Evolution. I need to continuously learn new things to feel aligned with who I am and to feel happy and fulfilled. And impact, making a positive impact. So as long as I feel like, and that's why all the businesses that I run and get involved in and invest in, they always make a positive impact. And I have lots of people that come, hey, how about this business? Do you want to get involved? Or even my partner has a new business idea every 5 minutes too. And most of them don't make a positive impact. So most of the ones that he comes to me with is like, hey, do you want to get involved? Do you want to help build this? Unless they make a positive impact, I can't do it. Like, even if they're super, the latest one was a car wash. And I know that we can definitely build a very profitable car wash around here. There's none around here, but it's so not ethical in my eyes. It's like, it's one of these stupidities, like wasting water that we don't have. The planet doesn't have enough water. And for things that already damage the planet, cars, it's like, I cannot build a business like that, because it's not aligned with my value of integrity and making a positive impact.
So living a life aligned to your values is what really gives you fulfillment on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then should we go to the happiness thing?
Absolutely. Let's go there.
Okay. So here's my take on this whole thing. I think there's too much focus on the pursuit of happiness. I think too many people talk about just be happy, and there's too much focus on happy. You got to be happy. You got to be happy. If you're not happy, there's something wrong with you. And even with kids, I see it, and I have two young kids, and I see it all the time with kids. Kid cries, is frustrated, angry, and the thing that we do straight away is distraction theory, and we're like, hey, it's all good. Don't be angry that you can't have this chocolate. Don't be angry. It's, just be happy. Here's another thing that we can do. How about you watch a show or something to be happy? And I feel like it's so much, our society is so obsessed with happiness that we don't allow these other emotions to be felt. So I believe that it's 100% so cool to feel sad or angry or frustrated. And it's cool to feel it. Just feel it for as long as you need to. And instead of constantly chasing happiness, what I actually believe in, and this is why I love the name of your show, is I believe in joy. And I think that you can have joy even in the darkness. Whereas happiness is a bit harder to have in darkness. So let's say I'm going through a really tough time, something terrible happened, or I'm struggling with something. Happiness in that moment is really difficult. And then something is wrong with me because I can't feel happy. I'm depressed or I feel anxious. I must be broken. No, I'm not broken. I'm going through a tough time, but I can appreciate joyful moments. And I think that for me personally is something that I'm striving for on a daily basis, is to find joy in the small moments. Last year, I lost a little bit of joy. I think I got just a bit tired because I had young kids working really hard and maybe not enough sleep. And I felt like I lost a bit of joy. And I would just do my thing and it's okay, just go and work and do the normal thing. And then I realized, you know what? Actually, I have it here still. I need to remember joy. And so I just put this on my desk, joy, because this I can do for 1 minute at a time for 30 seconds. So when it's even hard, I can appreciate, hey, I can find joy in the tough bit. And I think it's a habit to practice joy. And the last thing I'll say here is that with happiness, so we're so focused on the outcome, happiness, happiness, happiness. I believe in, yeah, okay, let's have some goals anywhere in life, let's say whatever, business, ships, health, anything. And then let go of that goal and don't worry about the journey to get there, because the journey can go left, right, around the bend, up and down. And because we're so focused on this journey to get to this goal of happiness, we get really sad. And instead, I believe, just detach from this journey that is really crazy called life, and find the joy in small moments, like a joy snack. Eat a little bit of joy every now and then.
Love it. I love your take, and it certainly aligned to me. I was tossing around book titles, and one of the ones that come to mind, I'm certainly not going with it, was how the pursuit of happiness is making us miserable. Right?
Yes, I like
Yes.
that. I like that.
Um, I totally concur with what you're sharing. As you said, happiness is a state. It's just a moment in time, and it's a state's not a continuum, right? It's not something that remains there. It's just
Yeah,
happens that we have all these neurotransmitters that are in the right ratios, the happiness ratio, that they disappear, they dissolve, and they get broken down. And yeah, and I think the other one you shared was happiness is entangled with sadness. So like at the same time we're happy about something but we're sad about something else, right? It's that entanglement, that, and they, I guess, two opposite ends of the poles, and you can't have one without the other. So they're
yeah,
linked together. Like, so if we were permanently happy, then what's sadness? And then if we didn't experience sadness, what's happiness? So
very
it's,
true.
yeah, it's
Yeah, very true. And I think it's great to normalize sadness too and frustration, rather
absolutely.
than making it a thing that we should always avoid.
Yes.
Because you and I, we both know, and you know more about brain function than I do, way more. But we both know that the way to get through sadness is the way through, not to avoid it by.
Yes.
And that's the thing with happiness, and a lot of books that talk about happiness, it's a lot about these dopamine hits that we seek. For some people that might be shopping. For me, to be honest, if I look for happiness, I'm going to jump on a motorbike, or I'm going for a surf, and that's also a dopamine hit. It's a little bit healthier than shopping or eating chocolate and stuff, but it's still an escape route. And I'm very conscious of that, and I still definitely do it. But at the same time, when I'm sitting on a motorbike or in the ocean for my dopamine hit to catch a wave, I can think about, hey, okay, I'm feeling sad or whatever, and I can have that thought process and acknowledge it while I'm getting a dopamine hit.
It's fantastic because essentially what you do is, like, in moments when you're not like, and this is like, sadness is really just a feedback mechanism that what we're doing isn't fulfilling, right? It's sort of, I mean, there's other reasons for sadness, loss and things like that,
Yeah.
but it's a feedback mechanism to get us to do something about it. And that's what you do. You essentially take it like, I'm not feeling great, but I'm going to go and do something that's more fulfilling, such as, for me, for you, it's jumping on a bike.
Mm.
And I just wanted to touch on the point that you mentioned dopamine, because there was a article in the National Geographic that I just read before this podcast, and it was talking about dopamine and how it's taken off on TikTok, and there's
Yeah, yeah.
dopamine detoxes, dopamine fasting, and how do
Really, I
we?
haven't seen that.
Yeah, so it's a real fad at the moment.
Yeah, yeah,
And what the neuroscientists are saying is they've got the wrong take on dopamine. Dopamine alone is not happiness. Like, happiness happens when we get a burst of these neurotransmitters, which incorporates dopamine, but it's not just dopamine, it's serotonin, oxytocin, as well as the endorphins. And I'm thinking, when you jump on the bike, of course, like there's movement towards what you value, which is freedom. So
Mhm.
that's the dopamine, the reward system kicking in. The serotonin is, again, associated with mood. And because it's aligned to your values, you're going to feel a good mood. And then the oxytocin is connection with your values. And then the endorphins are like the adrenaline rush that you get from the freedom and the speed. And so for me, that I can see how that can result in this beautiful burst of neurotransmitters and really helps pick you up.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess the point in this example is that for anyone listening, we all have different mechanisms to get to happiness, and I guess it's recognizing, hey, let's say mine is binge eating. Well, that's maybe not that healthy, so maybe find something more healthy that will actually get you into a state of flow, because the activities we talk about, motorcycle riding and surfing, they're all states that get you into flow, which I'm sure you as a neuroscientist, you'll know what happens in the brain when we get into the state, which is probably what you just shared before.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're out of that fight or flight state or the stress state, and we're in this where our wavelengths are sort of this nice mix between alpha and theta, and we get this gamma
Yeah,
burst. And anyway, we
yeah,
complete alignment through our
yeah.
nervous system, and with that alignment, we feel who we are. Like we're so authentic and in align with who we are. We're not doing something that's out of alignment. Like you mentioned in terms of the car wash, that's so not aligned to your values that
No,
you just couldn't move forward. There'd be no dopamine there, right?
no,
It's no.
no.
Yeah. So in terms of like, obviously you've got a fair bit of, I'm not saying that you're old, but you've got a fair bit of experience running businesses and experiencing life and traveling and whatnot. Through your travels and experiences, what have you come across that you realize, when you're a little girl, that it's a complete myth around happiness or misconception around happiness? What are some of the things that you've learned on your journey?
The first one that comes to mind, so coming from intuition, I trust what the thought that's come to me is a misconception is an obsession also with self-help. And I know, again, this is very contradictory, and I'm sure some listeners will go, F you, and that's cool. Self-help, what I mean is that there's such an obsession with focusing on ourselves only and for a very long time, rather, and maybe sometimes, borderline narcissistic tendencies. I feel like for me and what I'm observing other people, one of the best ways to get to a state of being where you feel more happy, joyful, is actually focusing on someone else, making an impact for someone else. So even little things, let's say I'm on a trip somewhere and talking to a stranger, helping somebody carry something or listening to someone share their story rather than just, hey, this is who I am and this is how cool I am. Don't worry. Yeah, one of my friends and I came up with this concept which I'm building out called moments of humanity. And one of my friend and I discussed it the other day. We want to do a show on it, and it's finding the remarkable in the seemingly unremarkable. Anywhere in the world where you meet people, you might think, oh, this is just, a farmer or whatever, a homeless person, but there's remarkable in every unremarkable. And I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is that already, that, hey, there's so much unremarkable. No, there's so much remarkable in the unremarkable. And secondly, focusing more on other people when we maybe feel down and see what happens. Because often moving from self-help to help others will actually be the thing that will lift our spirit.
Wow, you're the first person I've interviewed that shared that uniqueness around this obsession around self-help. So it's a fantastic insight, because I can totally concur with what you're saying, because in that obsession about self, we become disconnected
Yeah.
from others, and that lack of connection from others, we lose ourselves, because we're essentially thinking, well, what value am I adding to planet Earth? What's the point of me being here when I don't connect with anyone, I don't connect with anything? And I was interviewing a guy on longevity, and he studies the blue zones peoples and visits the blue zones in Europe and whatnot. And he said that one of the beliefs that they have is when you feel lonely,
Yes.
that's you're dying.
Yeah. I read that.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
In fact, there are studies around the blue zones, and also in general, there are studies around what makes people happy and connections, friendships, really deep rooted friendships, and not 2,000 friends on Facebook,
yeah.
but five,
Yes,
two,
yeah,
I say two
yeah,
really close friends
yeah.
is what helps people to feel more connected to themselves. So yeah, exactly what your friend also said is with the blue zones. It's they have such a close knitted community, and the elderly are so old. They live so long because they look after the grandkids. Whereas here in our society, we put our elderly in two homes where they're alone. Whereas in the blue zones, Italy, Costa Rica, etc., Japan, there's so ingrained the family system that the elderly are still within the family and they still have a purpose and they're still connected with their kids and their grandkids, etc. So yeah, I think that's a really good insight.
It's fascinating because then if you look at our world today, it's becoming, in a sense, quite tribal and separated and
Yeah.
disconnected. Yeah, then you look at social media, and then it's what is that doing for us? Well, there's a point of comparison all the time, and that comparison is comparing me to you, but you're completely unique and different. And why should like it doesn't help us. No. So, what are some of the things that you do to remain connected, or what are some of the practices that you do on a regular basis where you're doing that active giving? Is there some just share as to
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking, on the community front, I'm working really hard, and it's one of my main focuses, and it has been last year to build community and for people more to feel connected, other than their own circles. So one of them is with Basic Bananas. For us, it's all about building business community and facilitating that through the masterminds and getting people connected in with each other so they're not alone, and they meet up. As you know, we meet up every month, and also we have weekly meetings, and then we have an in-person gathering too. So that's community with business owners. And then on the other side, with ocean lovers, which is one of my other businesses. And with ocean lovers, the whole mission has always been to celebrate and protect our ocean, and we moved a little bit away from that purpose by focusing too much on product. And I feel like we need to come back again. And the product at the moment that we have is surf suits made from recycled plastics. And also we're just launching a line of bags made from recycled kites from kite surfing. But again, that's product. What we need to move back to is actually community, because we started with that. We started without a product. We started with building community. And when we first launched in 2000 and maybe 18 or 16, maybe actually, 16 or 17, we started with building communities of ocean lovers around the world who want to organize gatherings to do beach cleanups. And also we had a program in kindies and preschools for kids to learn about ocean conservation. So it was all about community, and we moved away from that. And now we're moving back into that. So more community building again, facilitating these community groups around the world to gather around ocean loving. So that's, when it comes to focusing on something else than internal, that my vehicle always has been for a long time. How can I make an impact through business? It's really part of my mission. And those are, two examples, I would say. And then I'm also on the board of a few organizations, and but I'm new on the board of a charity that is all about regenerative efforts in the northern rivers here around Byron, in the Byron Shire. And then another organization, which is an entrepreneurs organization. So, just I guess donating some of my time to the causes that I believe in.
Also, very like you're a keynote speaker, so you're out there as an activist, for
Yeah.
So you want to share a bit about your keynote speaking and the inspiration you share around
Yeah,
it.
we talked before about writing books, and I love writing. I don't have enough time to write. I generally write early mornings or when I'm on planes, but I love it. And I've written 4 books, and one of them, and I'm working on the next one. And one of them I wrote about courage. It's called The Courage Map. And it's a really cool book that also talks about some of the lessons I got from the road when I was riding a motorcycle from Switzerland along the Silk Road to Kazakhstan. And at the moment, I'm getting booked, and I published that book about 4 years ago, and I'm getting a lot of keynotes, invitations on that topic of courage. And I think it's because people need courage now more than ever. So I'm doing a lot of that. I'm just about to do a tour for Mortgage Choice around Australia. I'm back in the US. I did a tour last year in the US. Again, I love it. I definitely also, I can't say yes to everything because I also don't want to be away from my family for too long. But it's definitely really rewarding to be out there talking to people. And after every keynote, there's always someone in tears. Every time. There's usually people that come up and they talk and they share their experiences. There's usually always someone in tears. And usually the thing that they share with me is that I needed to hear this because now I can make the decision that I always knew I needed to make. But it was too hard to make. I was too scared. Now I'm going to make it. So that's really cool to hear. And I'm not a coach and I don't coach people, but that kind of is what I guess I do with.
That's an absolute, you're inspiring people. And throughout this conversation, because I just recently did a podcast, well, today, with Emma Dunwoody on human design.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually community. We built together a mastermind in Byron Bay with a bunch of women entrepreneurs that her and I built together. Love Emma. Love Emma. And she was a member of the Clever Bunch too. Yes, that's how I met her.
And that's how I met her.
Yeah.
At the experience. And
yeah.
I was just wondering, throughout the conversation, for me, you're either a manifestor or manifestor generator. Have I got that way close or?
I think I'm a generator.
You're a generator. Okay. Yeah.
Let me quickly check. I'm pretty sure I'm a generator.
Because a generator's a builder. So you're constant, you take inspiration and then you build on that and create success from that.
Yes. I'm a generator and I've got this path, and I don't know much about human design, but Emma sent me a whole bunch of stuff. I think 5-1, which is basically people that want to make an impact.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. And you've said that several times in our discussion is it's not making an impact. I want to do something that makes a positive impact. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not interested. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You want to leave that legacy that you're making a difference. And so great to have this conversation with you, Franziska. How can the listeners, viewers best connect with you?
I would say probably the best place to see, because some people might be into ocean conservation, they might want to get involved there. Some people might be business owners, they might want to, get some of the information that we publish. We have a lot of free content. So if it's for business owners, I would say go to basicbananas.com. We have a podcast too and really cool stuff on YouTube. For ocean conservation, oceanlovers.com. If you want to get in touch with me, everything is also on the one website, which is under my name. And that's franziskaiseli.com. FranziskaIseli.com. That's just under my personal name. And then LinkedIn. Yeah, just connect on LinkedIn too.
LinkedIn, yeah. And I was thinking, how do they access the books? Are they available on your website, on your person? Yeah.
Yeah, they're on, if they go to franziskaiseli.com, they're on there. And they're also on Basic Bananas.
Okay, fantastic. And to the listeners, I'll include all those links in the show notes so you can go directly, click on the link and go and get inspired by Franziska. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love what you do. I think you're making such an incredible impact. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Joyful Mate. I really appreciate your support. Please share it with others that could do it with a dose of encouragement, inspiration, and some, wise words of wisdom that Franziska's shared today in terms of living a life aligned to your values, and you'll experience more joy from within, and you won't get in this delusion of happiness and the happiness trap. Please share it far and wide, and thank you for listening.